I think that the question of how to define identity, it's increasingly defined as something which is to a great extent quantifiable. And this means if it's quantifiable, it's there. If it's non-quantifiable, it's not there. And clearly identity is a very emotional issue. And I guess, as in the word identity, it's about identification. See, I think once you are, having a life, you're working with something, you have a hobby, you have, your family, and somehow you start identifying, oh, this I like, this I don't like. This is something that I can talk about, I'm good, I have success in this. This is something that I'm less interested in. I think it's very interesting to see that identity is really what can you identify with. And once you feel that you can identify with something, it doesn't really matter whether this is geographically, a part of a certain country. I feel that I have as much in common with people in France, inside of the EU, and in other countries outside of the EU, as long as it is the same interest we have. Sometimes we see something, and you see, oh, I emotionally resonate with this, I know this feeling, I just haven't verbalized it yet. I haven't found a language to explain it. I didn't even know that I had this feeling. But I look at it, it inspires me, it's exciting. This is identification. So it is something that puts form on an emotional state that you have inside of yourself. And this could be positive, could also be negative, it could also be a trauma. And suddenly it is verbalized, or it's formalized, it's given a language, and suddenly you can express it. And this is the process of identification for me. And in my case, I have now had my studio in Berlin for 20 years. I moved not long after the wall came down. It was an amazing time, and I became a part of Berlin. Berlin became a part of me. I grew up in Denmark, not really far away from Germany, but clearly as a child you're very influenced by the society, the values in which you grew up. But the truth is, my parents came from Iceland. They were studying in Denmark. They were very young, and I went back to Iceland a lot. And I also belong to Iceland. I have very strong feelings about Iceland. And this means that my definition of identity is really based on how I feel, and where I feel connected to, or where I feel that I belong to. I think it's clear that Europe have a kind of identity crisis. I wouldn't say that Europe really have a crisis. I think that there is a very robust tradition of trust and trade, I call it. There's a culture for exchange, and there's a very robust infrastructure around this. The sad thing is, it's so boring, right? People are not gonna identify with each other based on a trade contract or a trade deal or something. And they sort of so there is the kind of the defense, the sort of trade and the optimization of things, and people maybe fail also to understand how much soft successes are based on a successful business sector, right? I think people maybe underestimate that if the business or if the finance or if the whole money system is mismanaged, it will have consequences for humanistic areas as well. But besides that, I think the failure or the sort of thing that maybe has been mismanaged in the interest of trying not to kind of monopolize or colonize culture, the emotional narrative or the identification mechanistic was left out of the European protocol. Education, the general knowledge machinery was left in the hands of the locals. And I wouldn't say it's gone terribly wrong. It just means that there is no agenda, there's no protocol, there's no way of creating a stronger interdependence within Europe, which has a greater sense of emotional things. And of course, the big question is whether this should be like that, because we would obviously we don't want a top-down definition of how to organize the civic infrastructure and civic trust and all that. We want the civic trust to be bottom-up, clearly. But we also have to see that sometimes the combination of top-down and civic trust bottom-up allows for basic human rights issues, the freedom of vote, land ownership issues for women, children's rights, and so on and so forth. And generally speaking, Europe is, of course, very progressed. Sometimes, or in some countries in Europe, it is so progressed that people like myself, I take freedom of speech for granted. It's very dangerous, right? So I feel so comfortable that I just think, well, of course, freedom of speech is natural. It's non-negotiable. It's always there. But the truth is, Europe is very small, and you don't have to travel very far until you are in situations where freedom of speech, religion, sexuality, and gender, and so on, is much more complex and problematic. It needs me to travel to start to appreciate what is inside of Europe. Right? It's very interesting that I had to leave. I had to go to countries where it is not possible to say what you want, in order to start also say, wow, what I am capable of doing would be difficult for me to do here. And this is something that cannot just be, you know, bottom up or top down. It's really a combination of how to create a civic infrastructure that is trust driven. So in a way I see it like that we have the old European countries where people kind of take the basic sort of human rights issues for granted. Therefore they sort of forget to nurture them. And then you have people who have joined recently the eastern part of Europe, which is like so exciting and energetic countries, and there you don't have the same civic trust, and you don't have the same evolution of human rights yet. They have come very far, and it is, you know, compared to other places in the world, still much further. And now there's a slightly lack of dialogue between, because the people who take it for granted, they kind of go, yeah, well, you know, it goes without saying, we don't have to talk about it, and the people, you know, who are only getting used to it, they haven't really created a way of operationalizing human rights, right? So you still have very sort of conflictuous statements about homosexuality, for instance, and things where you would expect, what? This is so barbaric. How can this happen? And you sort of took it for granted that this country would have gone beyond that for a long time ago, and you realize, well, it's not going to be a European top-down thing. It has to come from the civic trust.